Hi everyone, lovely to see you. We've got a great guest this evening. You're going to enjoy this. Let me just see. I hope you're all well. I have had a busy day. I've been doing lots of things, but I've been making and testing 2 recipes for elderflower. I've got an elderflower cordial brewing downstairs, and I have also, from one of our guests that we had on, Raluca from October 24, made her, Fiona, if you asked to join me, I've sent you a link. So if you asked to join me, then we should work. And then you make this other elderflower cordial and you add some of your mother. So you add some yeast to it that's in the mother with the water and the flour, and it starts to ferment it. I'll send you another invite, Fiona. Oh, there we are. We're going to go. Right, so wait until we get Fiona on and then we can go live together. This is going to be great, everyone. I'm really looking forward to this. Hello, Fiona.
Hello, hello.
Nice to see you. Thank you very much for joining us
Nice to see you
Cookbook
too.
Festival Kitchen Conversations. Let me just introduce you.
I've been glued to over the weeks.
Oh, have you? That's really nice
really
to hear.
good.
Thank you very much. That's very kind. So this is Fiona Beckett, award-winning food writer, wine writer, has been working for The Guardian since 2010, doing a wine column, leading expert, judge for competitions, BBC Food and Farming Awards, Andre Simon, Fortnum Masons, a great award winner herself, let's say. Over 20 books she has written. We're going to talk about her latest book, How to Drink and Without Drinking, which I have to say is fantastic. I got a copy through sent and I was amazed. I'm really impressed. But Fiona, I want to know how it all started, because you read philosophy and politics at university. Now, where did this transfer come? How did you get into food?
How did I get into food? I think just from sheer greed, really. So, you know, I always cooked. I was always keen on cooking. But I didn't imagine a career in food at all. And so I was doing all sorts of other things, and I didn't really start to become. I didn't become a food writer until I was about 40.
Okay. So because you had a family, didn't you, before?
Had a family, yes. Still have a family.
Yes, you do. You've got 4 children, and I'm sure numerous grandchildren.
3, yeah, three grandchildren and 4 children, yeah.
Okay, so you're an enthusiastic cook at home, and then when you were 40, you sort of thought, right, they've left the nest. What am I going to do?
No, it wasn't really that. It was more. I decided that I wanted to be a journalist. I kind of thought this is what I should have done. You know, having kind of faffed around with a whole lot of different jobs. And so I went back to university.
What did you?
I went to City University and I did a diploma in periodical journalism, so in feature writing. So, well, when I say I did it, I started it, and I didn't finish it because I actually managed to get onto the features desk at Today, and I thought, well, that's what I want to do anyway, so I might as well stay there. And
okay, so that sort of catapulted you. Yeah. And which came first, food or wine?
Food, definitely. Yeah, always food. So and I was writing for Today on all kinds of things. So I was a general feature writer. But whenever the opportunity came up to write about chefs or anything like that, you know, I kind of pushed it. And the wine was really an accident. So I'd been writing for them, and they decided to create a food and wine supplement. I mean, a bit like, you know, Guardian Feast. And you know, which was kind of quite radical back in the early 90s. And they had lined up Gilly Goulden, if you remember her.
Yes, I do.
To do the wine, but she was at the time writing for the Mail on Sunday's You magazine. And when the first column came out, they said, you can't do that. You know, you can't go and write for today as well. So they had no one to write next week's column. And they knew I was kind of interested in food. And so they assumed that I knew about wine. So they said, can you write us a couple of columns, wine columns? And I'm like, yeah, I can write that. You know, I'm lying through my teeth. But fortunately, I had just met at that point my now late husband, but he knew a bit about wine. So between us, we kind of cobbled these articles together. And they then said, yeah, that's fine, you know, carry on doing it.
Wow. And you didn't have the internet then, so you really did need books and a human being who could share his knowledge.
A human being, yeah, that was really useful. Yeah.
Very useful. And have you got any qualifications in wine?
No,
or have you just
none.
Because
no
your knowledge on wine is amazing, and your depth, because you have your website, Food and Wine Matching.
So it's matchingfoodandwine.com. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is just such a generous site, I have to say, because you're telling people what goes with what's the latest wines, and they can write in and ask you what to eat with this, and you'll help them.
Yeah, so I mean, it seemed to me, because I'd started with food, I actually think most people start with food. I mean, they don't, and there are people who are really, really interested in wine, and they always start with the wine, but most people start with the food. They're kind of like, I'm cooking this weekend. You know, what can I drink that? And so I thought it would be really useful. This was back in 2004, to have a website that actually kind of told you what you could, what sort of wines went with the kind of food that you were interested in making. So that's how that happened.
I'm guessing that because you have such a straightforward connection as a non-trained person, that you connect with people within their houses more easily. I was listening to you this morning on your podcast, Batonage. It was fantastic. It's so good. I love the way you talk. I loved the area. I know that area really well. And
which one was that you were listening to?
It was the one about the Languedoc.
Oh yeah.
You know, I know Béziers, Pesnas. I've actually sent it on to some friends. But you just make wine approachable for people. It's not a mystery, because for some people, there's too many wines, there's too many complicated names, there's too many grapes.
I don't know. In many ways, wine is not as complicated, or no more complicated than cheese. But for some reason, people really worry about it. They kind of think they don't know. They think they need to know a lot to express an opinion. You think how many cheeses there are. I mean, how many cheeses are there in France? I think about 800 or something like that. You know, there are so many cheeses, yet I always say this, nobody worries about not knowing very much about cheese. They don't worry that they don't know all about the world's cheeses. If somebody in a restaurant brings a cheese board over and they don't know what the cheese is, they kind of point at it and say, well, what is that one? Like, people are really nervous to say that about a wine, or point to a wine on a list. What is that one? And there is something that's kind of built up all around wine, that it's daunting and difficult, and you know, you have to be an expert to enjoy it. And I think that's rubbish. You know, people, you know, should be a little bit curious and you know, sort of try things and ask, and you know, go into a shop, ask about it. If you're in the happy days when we kind of get back to going to restaurants and wine bars, you know, you see a list, you see something you don't know by the glass, order it, try it.
Yeah, try it. If it's a colour you like, you can go with it. Yeah. So also, let's talk about your lovely, lovely book, How to Drink Without Drinking. I'm just going to be quite honest. I thought when I read this, this isn't going to do it for me. But I read it this morning and I just loved it. I love all the different sections. You see, I'm mad about kombucha. I'm definitely going to make your kefir.
Kefir is really good, and I have to thank, you know, I've got a really good neighbour here in Bristol. Bristol is full of wonderful, wonderful food and drink people.
It's very foodie.
She is, you know, totally into fermentation.
Yeah.
And so, you know, she sort of told me how to do this. Honestly, to be truthful, I cannot be bothered with kombucha. It's just such a faff with that, you know, the mother
Good.
and SCOBY, and, you know, it's just too much. But kefir is really easy to make and delicious. So I make that every week.
Yeah, well, I would say if you want to get into fermenting, anyone, or get into different drinks, because you do cordials and shrubs.
Shrubs are delicious. Yes. Yeah.
Explain to everyone what a shrub is, because
So a shrub is really like a cordial with vinegar, basically. It's kind of like a fruity vinegar drink. And so I like it better because it's, you know, it's got that tartness about it.
yeah, I like that tartness. I think that's why I like kombucha. But also you do lovely cocktails. You do a white sangria with a non-alcoholic wine. You see, as a food writer, here you have done a book with no alcohol.
Yeah,
As
no,
a
it's
drinks
quite
writer.
fun. I mean, I think most authors you would talk to would say that it's really good having some constraint on what you can write. If it's just like, oh, well, write a book about entertaining or something like that, that's really difficult.
Yeah.
But if it's kind of like you have to do this on one ingredient, or, you know, with no alcohol, it's a real challenge. I mean, I once did a book on beer and food, and that was a challenge for me because I wasn't like a big beer drinker. I didn't know much about beer, and you really explored it through the whole book. I mean, you know, the whole process of writing the book was like a research project.
And also, if it excites you, you know it's going to excite readers.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, you know, there were some drinks that I kind of tasted. I thought, oh, really, these are really nice. You know, I wouldn't feel shortchanged if somebody gave me those. You know.
Yeah. Where did you come across your Mexican pineapple drink, the tepeche?
Tepeche. I think that was when I was digging around on fermented drinks. There was a video. It may have been Bon Appetit.
Yeah.
Showing how it was made, and I think traditionally it's only made with the skin, which you know, is kind of frugal. But I thought it would be fruitier if you had a bit of flesh in as well. So I kind of adapted that slightly. But I mean, it's quite fun. It's like a kind of pineapple beer. It's delicious.
It
No,
sounds
really,
fantastic.
it is good.
Yeah. And are you a particularly big tea drinker?
I'm not one of those people who's obsessive about tea. I mean, I have a selection, but I'm not kind of, you know, I'm not into tea ceremonies and things like that. I do like to have different teas. But actually, tea is quite a useful ingredient in drinks. I mean, there's a strawberry Pimm's in the book, or Pimm's in inverted commas. I'm sure that's breaches their trademark. I want to call photos Pimm's, but so basically that's made using a couple of tea bags as a kind of structure for the drink.
Okay, and then you fruity it up.
Yeah, so tea is really useful because you can create there are things you miss from alcohol, and tannin is one of them, and that works really well in that drink.
And your Persian Shabbat?
Yeah, I got that from, I'm trying to think what the name.
I like the story. You bothered someone until they gave it to you.
Soda, who are absolutely lovely people actually, and make really, really delicious soft drinks. So when I was judging the BBC Food and Farming Awards a few years ago, we shortlisted them. This was kind of like really before the whole soft drink thing took off. They were then based in Hackney, and they made really lovely, fresh tasting soft drinks from, you know, fresh fruit. And they're now doing fabulous things. They make a sort of gin and tonic drink, and they make some lovely kind of sour drinks. But they also had made these sherbets for, and I now can't remember the lovely Persian restaurant in Soho that maybe.
Yes, it was a Persian restaurant that you had it at. I can't remember either.
I now can't find it. But anyway, yeah, it's so. But then I find it was quite complicated because you had to crush lots of apples and things. And then I kind of thought, well, actually, let's make it simpler. Let's use a cloudy apple juice, but it's infused with a little bit of saffron. And so that kind of create what you're constantly up against is like, how do you stop everything tasting sweet? And if you're someone who normally drinks alcohol, and I still drink alcohol, obviously, but I'm not drinking alcohol. I don't want sweet, cloying drinks. I want drinks that are fresh tasting and balanced and have a little bit of bitterness in them too.
Yes, I saw that you use quite a few limes and lemons and grapefruits to sort of add that different flavour rather than just syrupy, because we think of non-alcoholic drinks as syrups and waters and
I mean,
fizzy.
inevitably there is quite a lot of sweetness in cordials, but I mean, this time of year, if you can find any wild cherry trees, I mean, I know that's like quite a big ask, but you know, sometimes people do stumble across them, and I stumbled across them when I was doing the book because a friend of mine had an allotment and said, oh, there's a wild cherry tree there. And there's a wild cherry cordial, which is kind of small, slightly sour cherries, and that is fantastic, although it's got quite a lot of sugar in. You know, that there's that balance from the cherries in the drink, which is, I mean, it is gorgeous.
Oh, and I also love at the end of it, you have lots of recommendations and suggestions for replacement of alcohol and various things. And, you know, instead of red wine, drink whatever, and at celebrations, leading people into drinks. And it's not because you're on the wagon. It could be because you don't like alcohol and because you're
I mean,
religion.
there are a lot of people who don't drink. I mean, I think, I'm not sure what the current figures are, but certainly in the sort of under 35 kind of age bracket, I think it's about it's over 30%. So a lot of people do not drink for whatever reason, you know, like sometimes permanently, because you know they for religious reasons, or they may not like the taste, or for health reasons, or you know, because maybe they've had problems with alcohol in the past, they've given it up. People may not drink temporarily because they're pregnant, or you know, even like on a particular day because they're driving. You know, there are a lot of occasions when you don't drink, and there are now so many ready-made drinks too that you can buy. I mean, in fact, I thought actually, you know, I better at least drink one of them. So this is one of the things I drink regularly. So it's a really neat drink called Acorn. I don't know if you've heard of Seedlip.
Yes, I've heard of Seedlip. Yes, they're a
so
big
this
brand.
is made by the Seedlip people, and it's called Acorn because it has acorns in it. And it's basically a dry vermouth type drink. So,
but it's non-alcoholic?
Yeah. So I'm drinking that on the rocks with a good splash of soda and a slice of lemon. And that would be, you know, one of my favorite kind of aperitifs.
Wow, that's amazing. Oh, I'm going to get some of that. That sounds really good. And so what's your wine replacement? Just non-alcoholic wines?
Well, you know, actually wine is a struggle. I mean, you know, fortunately I do drink rather than not drinking at all. If you don't drink at all, it's really, really hard to find wine substitutes. I mean, there's a couple of products that are kind of okay, but you know.
Okay.
Beer, on the other hand, there are some really, really good alcohol-free beers and some not bad ciders and some reasonable spirits substitutes and products like this vermouth. So, you know, aperitifs. But wine, you know.
I suppose with wine, like a red wine, you could make a mulled wine because then you're adding spices, so you're sort of overriding it.
Yeah, you can mull it and you can sangria it.
Yes. So that's your recommendations for wines.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah. I mean,
how did the book come about, Fiona?
I thought it would be interesting to do, so I just kind of talked to one of the editors I'd worked with before at Kyle, Jo Copestick, and said, you know, should we do this? And she said, yeah, I think it's, you know, it's the moment to do it. So we did, and it came out at the beginning of the year.
And it's done really well.
Yes, it's done really well. There's certainly, you know, there's a real demand for it, I think. You know,
and you're on a short list for a prize for something, aren't you?
That wasn't for the book. That was for the what was it for? Drinks writer.
Okay. Okay. And how long have you had your podcast going?
That's been going for about, I would say about 15 months or so. So that started, so this is a friend of mine called Liam Stevenson. And we've done some, he's a master of wine, which
Yeah.
I'm not, I said. And we've done some events together. And we kind of kick off quite well against each other because, you know, it was just like different voices, different experiences, different take on everything. But we also get on really well. And so we thought, well, actually, why don't we do a podcast? And it was partly him saying, why don't we do a podcast? And then he came up with this idea of the name batonnage. And batonnage is the process of stirring up the spent lees cells that kind of are from after fermentation in a wine to add texture and flavor. So it had this kind of double meaning of stirring. And we kind of quite liked that. We thought, and then he came up with a really good logo. And we're just like, well, we've got to do it. We've got a name, we've got a logo. We've got to better do a podcast.
But it's brilliant. But you were one of the early embracers, I have to say, of social media, because you've got 44 or 48,000 followers on Instagram, near on that on Twitter. You really jumped on it. Did you do that with knowledge, or you just had the time and you thought, why not?
Yeah, I think, you know, like a lot of us, you sort of think, oh, that looks rather interesting. I think I'll do that. You know, so, and I suppose I've always been curious about things. I'm not sure I'm kind of right up to, you know, I have taken a look at TikTok and I'm like, no, I think that's
we want to see you dancing with a wine bottle.
Not my generation, no. So, you know, sometimes something comes up and you think, yeah, it's going to be, it is already big TikTok, but I think, you know, not for me, I don't think.
Yeah, no, that's
fantastic. But I mean, Instagram was kind of intriguing. And I think one of the things, I don't know what you feel as a writer, but if what you do is play with words, the idea of actually being able to post your own images and kind of create images is just such fun. I mean, you know, like it wasn't anything that you could do, because actually there were photographers for that. And I think photographers have been empowered in the same way. You know, photographers find that they can write about what they do. So it's like this wonderful sort of cross sort of fusion of sort of skills, which is fun.
It's a wonderful sort of releasing platform where you can be the editor of your own destiny almost.
Yeah, you can do. I mean, I've always liked that, you know, being slightly bolshy. I've always liked doing you know, being able to do what I like. So, you know, and that's the reason to have a website, because you can do exactly what you like. And you can do a reason to do social media. You can write what you like, and you know, there's no one saying, you know, you can't do that.
And I think also, as long as you're generous and sensible, you don't get criticised. You're fine.
I think some people do get into difficulties with it. I think often for no real fault of their own. I think there's a bit of jealousy in the business. I think it's, you know, sort of like if you're new and young and talented and people don't quite know where you've come from, sometimes people are a bit hard on people. I think people who are established should do as much as they can to help people who are not, and give them a leg up, and, you know, try and help them find a voice. And I mean, particularly this week, you know, we've been talking about that. I mean, I've not really gotten into trouble on social media.
Well, that's very generous of you to say all of that.
But not really from being. I mean, occasionally, yeah. But I mean, I am sometimes political, you know, so it's not like I kind of play it safe. I do sometimes go out there and say exactly what I think. But I think
people like that about you. That's what I'm trying to say, because you're not unkind or anything, but you're strong-minded or strong-voiced. But it's quite clear what you say. There's no grey.
That's probably true.
Well, and you're speaking your mind, but you've created, and what you say is fair. You know, it's when people
also you need to be yourself. I mean, it's really, I don't think social media works if you try and be someone you're not. You have to kind of like be yourself, and also kind of try and be a bit interesting, you know, try and dig out things that are really interesting. Yes. And share them.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Can we just briefly talk about, you have a very famous son who,
Yeah,
Will, you must be very
yeah.
proud
I am
mother.
now, nowadays I am Will's mum, you know. That is my
So Will
that's
Beckett, who founded the Hawksmoor.
right.
Tell us, when he founded that, were you very much part of it, or you
No,
were just,
no, he's done it entirely on his own.
were you ever sort
But
of slightly
he's
heart
not
beating?
really he's not really the, I mean, he would be the first to say this, he's not really the food and drink brain behind it. He's so his business partner Hugh
Yeah.
Gott is more that. He's always been the sort of more on the business side, the people side, the communication side. He helps it to, I think, you know, a lot of the fact that it's been as successful as it is obviously down to him.
Okay, no, that's nice, and well done you. You must be a very proud mother.
Well, I am, yeah.
Can we talk about one of your funny books that always made me laugh, Beyond Baked Beans?
Yeah.
This was written for when your children were obviously at university, or you wrote one
Yeah.
before that, didn't you? You wrote The Frugal Cook. You sort of sometimes wrote books through your stages of life.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So the Beyond Baked Bean books were came first, and that was when the kids had been at or were going through university. And do you remember, like, the student cookbooks of that era were all full of recipes like you know, tuna casserole with crisps on top. You know, like that was the kind of thing that and sort of chicken with, you know, tin mushroom soup, and you know,
Yes,
it was all like
yes.
that. And so at that stage, there really wasn't anything that that recognized that students had moved on and treated them, you know, as sort of as adults. So I thought it would be quite fun to do one, and again managed to persuade a publisher to let me do it. And to that, so this was Absolute Press. To their absolute eternal credit, they like the name. You know, we both like the name, and but W.H. Smith came to them and said, well, you know, we don't really like this name. Can't you call it the Student Cookbook? And he came back to John Croft, the publisher, came back to me and said, well, what do you think about that? And I think that's rubbish. You know, like, it's a really good name.
Yeah.
Look, why don't we give it that? And, you know, to his eternal credit, he went back to W.H. Smith and said, no, actually, we want to keep this name for the book. And so they didn't list it, but it did actually sell incredibly well. So
It did really well.
But, you know, like that was like a kind of big thing for him to do, kind of eternally grateful to him for doing that.
Oh, that's lovely to hear. And what are your top wine tips to people? I know
Oh,
that's a
gosh.
really hard question, but, you know, for a real novice just starting out, what would you say to look out for? Or I suppose to start off working out.
Yeah, I would say find a little group of people who are like roughly at the same stage as you are, and form a little wine group. And I mean, you can, like, at the moment when we can't see anybody, you could do this on Zoom.
Yeah.
So just kind of systematically explore the wine world bit by bit, and kind of like get together, you know, once every 4 to 6 weeks, whatever, choose a theme, taste things, and compare, chat. So like a bit like a book club, but wine. So what you really want to do is taste all the time. Just kind of keep on tasting things and find out what you like. And so you can, I mean, as I say, like earlier on about wine bars, you know, you can, like, if you're, you know, going to a restaurant, going to a wine bar, wine list, try something. So just constantly stretch yourself. You know, try things, and when you find something you like, try and identify what it is you like. So if you're someone, for example, who likes New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, so like, does that mean I like all Sauvignon Blancs? What other wines might I like if I like Sauvignon Blanc? Well, you know, it's quite fruity, it's quite dry, it's quite crisp. You know, maybe I might like Albarino, for example, or Picpoul, or, you know, there's quite a lot of wines that kind of are in that category. And then you kind of just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And, you know, you get a bigger kind of list of wines that you actually will enjoy.
Your knowledge will expand. That's great advice to anyone.
Mm.
Yes, and you can start at whatever level of
And
budget you
you
wish.
can, I mean, obviously you can read, and you can read up on it, and you can watch videos. And I mean, I just done a piece for the Guardian on how lockdown has had one plus in that it's actually made the whole wine world much more accessible to people. I mean, there's a whole lot of sort of Zoom events, wine
Yeah.
tastings, all this kind of thing that people, you know, that used at one stage to only be available to wine professionals, people in the trade, and they're all opening up. And if you're interested, you can really learn a lot about wine online now. So
That's amazing. That's really good.
it depends, you know. Some people just kind of want a little bit of knowledge so that
Mm.
you know they can, when their friends come around, you know, they know that something is interesting, and they can serve it to friends, and friends will all say, oh, that's a really delicious wine, you know, where did you find that? I mean, that's what a lot of people want. It's sort of like finding a favorite recipe, isn't it? It's like
Yeah, they
finding a
want
lovely
reward.
recipe is your recipe, and your friends sort of like, God, that's good, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what you know. So it depends where you are, whether you're really determined to improve your knowledge, or whether you just want a little bit of knowledge just to get by.
Yeah, to get going and see where
Mm,
it goes.
mm.
What's your thoughts on orange wine?
Well, I like it
I
because,
love it.
yeah, I mean, it's really intriguing. So orange wine, for anyone who doesn't know,
Yeah.
is white wine that is made in a similar way to red wine, by leaving the juice in contact with the skins for, it can be a matter of hours, or it can be a matter of days or weeks. And so the longer you leave the juice in contact with the skins, the deeper the color. So you can get very pale orange wines, and you can also get kind of really quite deep colored orange wines. And so they're more tannic than normal white wines. They've got more structure, and they're an acquired taste that, not, you know, like, you might not like them to begin with, but then there's lots of food like that, isn't there? There's like,
Yes.
not
Yes.
everybody likes olives to begin with. Not everyone likes anchovies to begin with.
Yeah.
And you kind of like, you start off with a new taste, and I don't know about this, you know, it's a bit weird, isn't it? And then you might taste it again. Oh, I don't know, I quite like that one.
I
And
remember that.
and you just kind of come a bit nearer these. And I think natural wine, of which orange wines often fall into the natural wine category, are the same. You know, if you taste them for the first time, go on, no, it's a bit weird, it's a bit cloudy. I don't know, it should smell like that. I haven't tasted wine like that before. Oh, I don't know, I think I quite like that now, you know. So
Yeah.
I think, you know, just taste it and try it. And it's really good with some particular foods. So I love it with sort of Eastern Mediterranean food, sort of, you know, sort of things like, you know, lamb and aubergines and tahini and that whole kind of lovely ottolenghi-ish kind of mix of flavors.
Yes, it's got enough depth of flavour to cut
Yeah.
through the complexity of those. It's quite hard to get hold of, though, Fiona.
Yeah, you're not. I mean, you usually find that supermarkets. M&S did one for a while, actually.
Or did they? Okay.
In fact, may even still do it, called Kvevery, which is a sort of Georgian wine, which is kind of aged in a kind of terracotta pot.
Oh, lovely. Lovely. Okay, well, I'll keep looking, because whenever I see them, I buy them, but they can be really expensive as well.
No, they're not cheap. No,
they can vary in price, big time. Yeah. What's your favourite wine?
Oh, right.
Or your last favourite wine?
My last favourite wine. Oh, yeah. Well, I always, people do say that a lot. You know, what's your favourite wine? And what I generally say is there are very few occasions on which somebody says to you, "Would you like a glass of champagne?" And you think, nah, I can't bother, really. You know, I mean, like, champagne always pretty well hits the spot. And I wouldn't say it's like my favourite, but I kind of enjoy, you know, good sparkling wine is lovely. You know, I'm a Pinot Noir fan, so I love red Burgundy. I drank a really nice red Burgundy with a roast chicken from the Zumini Cafe cookbook we did at the weekend.
Lovely.
I had a really good English Chardonnay the other day.
Where's
So, you
that
know,
from?
company called, kind of winery called Tillingham.
Okay.
Um, really interesting. But not cheap, but lovely. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. What's your favourite kitchen tool?
Favorite kitchen tool. Kitchen tool. Do you know, I kind of would find it really hard to cope without my food processor.
Oh, okay, that's a good one. Yeah. It
Yeah.
just
You know, it's yeah, I use it an awful lot.
because you're a prolific cook, aren't you?
Well, I don't know. I kind of think,
Well, you've got to eat, I know, but
yeah.
you're endlessly putting lovely
Well, I think the
pictures.
thing is, like during lockdown, I've really, really missed restaurants, and I've really, really missed going out to eat with friends.
Mm.
So I mean, like lots of people. So kind of like, oh, how can I get around this? So I have a number of little groups of friends, and we kind of do different things. So sometimes we cook together. So I had one a session at the weekend where we cook this chicken, and so it's quite fun. So we cook it up, we do it on Zoom, and we all kind of compare. And I'm like, should we do this? You know, I don't know.
Everyone's cooking their own chicken.
So we're all doing the same recipe, and
Yeah.
we're kind of like comparing notes along the way. So sometimes it actually involves cooking together. Sometimes it's a kind of theme, and we just kind of eat together and enjoy that. We had a cacio e pepe night the other night, and sometimes it's just one-to-one. You know, kind of like.
Yeah.
So I would be round with this friend, and so, well, kind of rather than just having a drink together, why don't we both make something and eat together?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Okay.
it can work in various ways, but it is actually really good fun.
No, that's brilliant. And being down in Bristol, you are surrounded by great suppliers, great restaurants. It's very, very vibrant, the food front down there, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know how that's developed, but I mean, there are some great restaurants who are all closed at the moment. I'm really hoping that they will reopen soon. But a lot are now starting to do takeaway, and I think even with my enthusiasm for cooking, you know, God, you just sort of think, actually, I could murder a takeaway. So I actually going to have a takeaway later tonight.
Okay, from your favourite place. Do you know a restaurant down in Bristol called Pasture?
I've heard of it, but I haven't been.
Okay, it's big on meat. It's quite
Yeah,
a sort of young
yeah,
person's place, but it
yeah,
looks amazing. I just wondered, it's all sort of tomahawk hawk steaks
yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, it just looks
Well,
very.
yeah, I kind of if I need a steak, I know where to go. So
I
I
think you
think I
do.
know where to go. Don't tend to have steak when I can't when I'm back in Bristol. I kind of save it for when I go to London.
You have it there, yeah. And do you have any favourite food associated film, TV, book? Who's your?
I don't know, film less. I don't watch TV a lot. I love cookbooks.
Yeah,
So I'm ridiculously silly about acquiring cookbooks, and occasionally have to have culls because I've got so many. So you know, I have, and I'm often exploring new cookbooks. So I think I've had I think you've had Sammy recently, Sammy Tamimi, haven't you?
oh, their book is amazing.
Palestine is absolutely wonderful. I love Rupa's new book, India.
Yes.
So like a couple of my groups, we cooked from that. And then there are books I keep on going back to. I really like Ed Smith's On the Side, which is all about side dishes. I mean, I think it's a really good book that fills a gap that no one else has quite filled as successfully. It's a really, really good book. And what else? I love the Honey and Co books.
Oh, they're gorgeous.
I love Honey and Co, and I think their books are terrific too. I mean, you can go on and on, but
yeah. And we've had lots of people write into us asking about how they get a book published, how they get on the book world. Would you have any advice, having written 20 plus books?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I think I think you need to sort of look carefully at what's out there and what you've got to offer. You need to be able to come up with something distinctive. Although having said that, you know, it always surprises me that the publishers, like, you can pitch a really original idea to a publisher, and you know, maybe no one's done it. It's harder now than it once was, but I mean, you can still probably find an angle, and you'd think they would leap on that because, like, no one else has done it, and that is the problem. No one else has done it.
There's a reason.
So they kind of think, oh, I don't know. Their sales forces tell them, well, that might not sell. So sometimes it helps if somebody has done a book like it, and you come up and, you know, you sort of think, oh, well, I could also do that, but I could give it this twist.
Yeah.
I think, you know, just try and think what you have to offer. Why is there a need for this book? You know, why me to write it? What can I, and I mean, don't then go into immediate, oh, well, you know, there's obviously no need for it, and, you know, I'm not the person to do it. I mean, be confident that you actually have something to offer, but just try and work out, you know, what that is.
Yes.
I mean, if I think about a good niche, Genevieve Taylor.
Yes.
Who's another Bristolian, that she did a book on vegetarian, so like it's vegetarian barbecue, and it's called Charred. And so, you know, I mean, she's a woman working with fire, so that kind of ticks some good boxes. You know, it's quite distinctive. People are
Genevieve's saying hello, and we've got her coming on the show as well, so that's really funny.
Okay. Well, there you go, Jen. I think that's a really good book. I mean, you know, it was well thought through and well pitched, and really brilliantly executed, as all her books are.
That's really nice to hear. Oh, that's fantastic. And what have you got coming up? Obviously, you've still got your columns that you're writing. You're still doing your website. Did you have any travel? Because you do lots of travelling with work.
No, I travel, and obviously I haven't been anywhere for the last 3 months. Was really, really lucky to get a trip into New Zealand before lockdown. So I have already been away this year. I don't know. I have no idea what will happen. And at the moment, I'm not too fussed. What I really, really want to do is be able to jump in the car and go somewhere and stay overnight. Which if I can actually see my family, and I really want to go to the sea.
Yes.
I mean, I can't, you know, beaches are all a bit manic at the moment, but I mean, I kind of would like, I'd like to go somewhere, although it's really nice being in Bristol, but I kind of just like to jump in the car and go somewhere.
Change the scenery for a few days.
Yeah.
Well, listen, thank you very much for joining us, Fiona. It's been fantastic. You've been fantastic and so insightful with all your food and wine knowledge and sharing. And enjoy your acorn drink.
Yes, I will. Doesn't sound very sexy, does it? But it is.
No, but I like the look of it. I'm going to try it. I'm going to dig some out.
Yeah, no, it's really good. One of my regulars. But you know, thank you very much for inviting me, and I think they're brilliant, these interviews and discussions. So,
well, thanks very much
for doing them.
And all the best of luck with your book. And everyone, go online and you can buy it, or go onto Fiona's site, Matching Food and Wine.
Matchingfoodandwine.com. Yeah.
There we are, and you'll find out everything else about Fiona there. Okay, thanks very much, Fiona.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.